Here, you guys tricked me.
Yeah, he's just in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
I heard him sitting in the back row, but then he was sitting in the front row. So probably by you.
John.
Yeah.
Where's sitting?
Yeah. He was the artist. Sorry, Mom. I didn't turn that piece. Oh, he's ready to get put.
So maybe he is, I hope he doesn't, yeah, I hope he doesn't sit up here.
Okay.
Cause I totally switched chairs. I had the program with.
Wait, out there.
Okay, I'm gonna call the January 20th, 2025 City Council meeting to order. As you can tell, John Hawkins is not here, he's out of town, so I'm sitting in. He's visiting some family, so. First item of business, I want to make sure everyone's aware this is being broadcast on Facebook. Hoping, right, it's working this time, but anyway, it's we should be live. Roll call.
Abby Hansen,
Here.
John Hodkins, Megan McFarland,
Here.
Matt McKinney,
Here.
Logan Welch.
Here. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay. First item is a motion of approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, number one, petitions, communications, and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. Please no more than 5 minutes though per person. Except in cases of emergency, the city council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask the city staff to research the matter or have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Does anyone have any public information or item for the council that's not on the agenda? If not, we'll move along. Item number two, the consent agenda. The following items have been deemed to be non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item A is the minutes from the January 6th, 2025 regular city council meeting. Item B are the claims, including payroll ending January 11th, 2025, and the fund list. Item C are reports for wastewater, electric, water for December 2024. Item D is the police department activity report for December 2024. Item E is the fire department report for December 2024. And item F is recommend approval for issuance of beer and liquor licenses by the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following: a renewal of a special Class C retail alcohol license for Hamilton County Exposition, also known Hamilton County Fairgrounds, but does not include the Speedway, at 1200 Bluff Street. An auto renewal of Class E retail alcohol license for Casey's General Store, number 3054, 700 Superior Street. Can I get a motion for the consent?
Moved
No, you.
to approve the consent agenda A through F collectively.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item G, we don't go over sometimes, but does anyone have any council committee reports? No. Okay, we'll jump on to general agenda, item number 3. We're a little early for the public hearing. So do we move on to item B? We're not quite at 6:05.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll jump down to item B just to make sure we're not jumping the gun on the 6:05 hearing stated time. So item B is a resolution accepting permanent and temporary easement agreement for the owners of Webster City, Iowa Assisted Living Owner LLC, a Delaware limited liability company.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is a resolution accepting a permanent and temporary easement for a sewer main that needs to be installed should the Canadian housing development proceed. My apologies for not having a map on here indicating where the easement is. It does indicate its width. The permanent is 20 foot. And I believe the temporary is also 20 foot. This would traverse along the northern boundary of the property that is owned by Windsor Manor. That links up with the proposed housing development. It's necessary for the route to connect the sewer to the development. And so that is the purpose of this temporary and permanent easement. The company was very cooperative and responded quickly after we contacted them. I can answer any questions if you have. And for the public's purpose, I am social distancing a little bit because of a nasty cold I have. So trying not to get Councilor Welch and Hanson and the rest of them ill.
Well, we appreciate that. No questions, but just one thing I have is this wouldn't be needed if the development didn't go forward, right?
Correct.
Is it proper to go on this agenda item before we talk about the public hearing?
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly a great question. What I can assure the councils that the company's been clear with us that obtaining these easements are necessary for them to continue their planning process. And this would be something that without the security of these easements, that they would be uncomfortable proceeding with. If for some reason the company determines not to proceed even after we obtain the easements, it's probably a good idea that we have some of these easements, especially because it's necessary for certain development on that property. But we can, if the council is more comfortable, if the development doesn't proceed, we can always talk about vacating them.
No, very good. Again, I just know some discussion might come out of item A, and this is kind of preemptively moving forward with the easement. So yeah, I'm comfortable moving forward with the easement regardless of the conversation of A. So
Move to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, we are at 6:06, so we'll jump back up to item A, the public hearing on development agreement between the city of Webster City and Kading Properties.
Would you like me to go over the resolution before we open it for comments, or you want to take
Sure.
comments first?
Do I, again, this is my greenness here. Do I open the hearing first or is it?
Please do.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll open the hearing.
There's no written.
Maybe that's for written and oral.
Okay. Do I ask or do you?
You knew. You asked me.
Everyone's looking at me. I'm like. Okay. So the hearing is open. Are there any written objections?
No.
Any oral objections?
That would be that's right.
Yes,
Yep.
please. The only thing we ask is if you come up, I probably appreciate you coming up there. We just ask you state your name and your address. Record.
16th Street.
Anyway, not against development, but we drove around the city a week ago Sunday. And, we have that East Fairmeadow Drive, that new area. And they have the curb and gutter already there. They got the road already there. And then on West Fairmeadow Drive, they have all those empty lots. Just wondering how they came to want to place a new place on Wall Street. Just kind of wondering about that.
Do you want to ask the council that? Good. And again, I can't speak for Kading, and Kading's here and they can maybe address that question. But please, I'm gonna throw like a 2-sentence answer out and you add to it later if you'd like. Chase from Kading is here. I believe it's because the lot sizes and costs inhibit the type of buildings and kind of the demographic you aim for in your developments. I'm guessing, but I'll let them answer that. But that's maybe why they didn't look at that area.
Okay. Because there is a lot of empty lots in Webster City. Do you guys only build like in a group? Is that kind of how you do that?
Please feel free to, if you want, Chase. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're more than welcome to respond to that from your seat if you want to.
Okay, yeah, so we prefer to develop on at least 10 or more acres. Development's expensive everywhere, especially in the more rural parts of Iowa. So we try to target that 10 or more acres to make the project more feasible. The other thing about this particular piece of land is this land was actually a site that we looked into developing for this project back in 2020. Fortunately, we weren't able to continue on with the project back in 2020. But the land this past year was made available for sale again. So it was a piece that we revisited.
Okay, because I had actually done some research and I saw that you guys were gonna build out there. And before, I thought the city council had to turn that down. If I'm wrong, tell
Well,
me.
It was rejected in 2020.
we didn't move forward with some of the infrastructure build out that would have been required at the time. Yeah.
So you say you build on only 10 acres or better?
We prefer to see at least 10 acres or more.
And you never visit anything out on the Edgewood Drive area because there's probably 50 acres out there, all curb and gutter lots.
Why can it?
Yeah. And maybe we could do some background from the city manager. Do you have any other questions or objections like to the?
Guys built in different communities and we actually drove through one on Saturday and Sunday. And they look beautiful when they start out. And then we have a bunch of documentations and these are people's letters and pictures of what happens after a short time living in these places. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I think everybody should know about that.
I visited your website for reviews and stuff and reviewed 5 or 6 pages of document of people that's unhappy with the way things are run. Yeah. So I just try to figure out if this is a great move for Webster City. Why are we getting all this negative feedback from people in reviews?
Again, I wouldn't necessarily address him, directly. I don't want to put him on the spot, but he's more than welcome to comment. But I appreciate the Carpenters coming here tonight and talking about some concerns, and they're valid. And yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing those pictures and stuff. But any other comments or?
There's all sorts of reviews and just stuff like that.
Thank you. I'll make sure the whole council gets to it.
In Manfred.
Their son lives in Adel, and I talked to him too. And he visited the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for getting up. Any other oral objections or comments? John, do you want to comment on any of this?
Comment on,
Any of it?
if after the hearing's closed, I'll reserve my comment.
Okay, then I will close the hearing.
Before the council, connection with the resolution is in connection with the public hearing is a resolution. You'll remember that at our last meeting, you set the public hearing for the urban renewal plan, just so we're going to go through those steps a little bit for the public's benefit and then for the council. So, city's been approached by the Kading company to develop approximately 28 acres on the western boundary of the city, located on Wall Street. They propose to construct 218 units of workforce housing over a 3-year time span, likely beginning in 2026. As was mentioned, the company has been interested in Webster City for some time. In its latest approaching the city in 2020, there were some infrastructure questions that have been resolved since that time, and that is why the proposal is proceeding at this time. In going back to the process, as part of their development agreement, Kading has requested the use of tax increment financing to support the project and to essentially be recouped for the cost of the public infrastructure that they will be then deeding to the city. So the terms, as requested, are roughly $4.5 million over 15 years. And an additional $1.2 million economic development grant to assist with the infrastructure, because the cost of that infrastructure exceeds what the tax increment financing district will produce over that 15 years. So technically, for your process associated with approving that urban renewal area and the agreement over the tax increment financing funding, you first have to create an urban renewal area as dictated by Iowa statutes. You are currently in that process and set a public hearing for that for February 3rd. So on February 3rd, you will open another public hearing on the urban renewal plan, take comments, and then determine on to act whether or not to enact that urban renewal plan in a following action. Likely at the same meeting, you will consider a tax increment financing ordinance that will be linked to that district, and you'll begin the process of considering that ordinance as is your custom and as are the requirements of Iowa statute. You'll remember at our last meeting when we set the public hearing for the urban renewal plan, the developer who is here tonight, as you're aware, requested because of their long-standing interest in developing in Webster City and sort of the hurdles that they were facing in a prior iteration, that the council consider entering into a development agreement with them that is somewhat in addition to what would be covered by the TIF agreement. So technically, the TIF agreement will dictate the dispersion of the TIF funds. And just for the public's benefit, it's very clear. The developer will not receive any more than they put into the public infrastructure. That is what Iowa law allows you to reimburse them. And so while our estimates are $4.5 million today, if for some reason that is unlikely, their infrastructure costs are only $3.5 million, or only $3 million, or only $2 million, and they only submit receipts for that amount, that is all they would get. But we're working on the best estimates that we have at this time today. After our last meeting, we began working on something that might meet the needs of the council and the developer as part of the development agreement. This resolution was created last week and submitted to the developers somewhat late. I don't know that they've had enough, at least as much time as they would have liked to review it, but it is something that is very satisfactory to your legal counsel, who will be drafting up the subsequent TIF document, and to the benefit of the developer, at least provides what I would call a good intention and good faith that you will continue to along the process that we've started. So I'm going to walk through the resolution, and then I can answer any questions you have about that or any other issues that were raised at the public hearing. So the resolution, simply going through the whereases, states that we have proposed to designate certain property as an urban renewal area, as you did when you set the public hearing for February 3rd, that the developers propose to undertake development of a housing project, which they have, roughly $28 million project on the western border of our city, as well as to construct certain public infrastructure costs. In addition, the developers requested that we provide economic development support in the form of two different avenues. First, the tax increment financing, and then the economic development grant to be used for public infrastructure and road improvements. It also says the city intends to support the developer in carrying out the infrastructure by undertaking the necessary processes that you're required to statutorily, and then authorizing and executing a development agreement regarding the housing project and the infrastructure part of the project. And then making a provision through those agreements for the authorization of payments, which are discussed further in this resolution. It then moves to the now therefores and the sections of the resolution that says the city hereby expresses its intent to support the housing project and infrastructure project in the future, and that our agreements will include minimally the developer will agree to cause the housing project to move forward on the project, and that we will agree to cause that the developer will agree to cause the construction of the infrastructure project. And upon acceptance by the city of the infrastructure project, the developer will agree to provide us with a deed to that infrastructure. The resolution goes on to provide details of the expenditures that are anticipated for the various public infrastructure, and that the city agrees to reimburse it through those two avenues, both the TIF agreement and the grant amount. And then there's considerable discussion about how payments for TIF are calculated that will likely be repeated in the TIF agreement. The city will also be able to reimburse from its TIF proceeds the legal and administrative costs currently estimated to be $15,000. And that we agree to use our best efforts to complete the statutory requirements of 403 in order to include it in an urban renewal area. That summarizes the resolution. Can answer any questions the council might have on this matter or any other questions that you have related to it. I don't know if you have any questions or comments.
I would just.
If you please, because for one, I have a quick question for you too, but please go to the podium, Chase. Did you have enough time to review it?
I did, and my attorney also was also able to review it as well. Yep. So the last council meeting, one of the things that I discussed was our desire to have some sort of document that would give us the confidence to be able to proceed with the project. There was some back and forth on a development agreement. There would eventually be a development agreement and TIF agreement at a later council date. What this document does is it gives Kading the confidence to be able to continue with the project, and it allows us to be able to put more dollars into our engineering and start developing site plans as well as preliminary plats. It allows us to do that in a manner that we're able to hit our deadlines. We do have land under contract, and that contract does run out, but what this document does, as I've stated, is it gives us the confidence to be able to continue with the project in Webster City.
Any other questions from council? We did have a couple concerned citizens about some negative reviews of your properties. Would you like to address that at all?
I would just say that there's negative reviews for every real estate company. It's not just us. And I would also like to see those pictures as well. We do hold ourselves to a very high standard. One of the unique things about us is being an Iowa-based company is that when we come into a community, we're here to stay. We've never sold one of our larger developments. We have our entire property management team that keeps up with the properties. They're there to answer any of our residents' questions, and every year they also do walks of the properties and note those little things. But I would be interested to see those photos as well. And yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good.
You might not have these figures offhand, but how many total properties does Kading have as far as rental units? And for how long? When was the first one developed? When did that start?
So Rick Kading started the company nearly 50 years ago. He started out by buying dilapidated houses and infill lots, based off the belief that there was a lack of housing that met the needs of the average working Iowan. Since then, we moved to building larger developments like you see today, and that's now expanded to over to 2,500 units across Iowa. being in around 26 different communities. So we go as far west as Stewart, as far east as Marshalltown, north as Storm Lake, and south as Corydon, Iowa.
Any other questions?
When you say communities, do you mean your development communities or cities and towns?
The development communities, yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing I will add is we do get a lot of communities that ask us to come back to do additional projects. So right now we're building 2 large developments in communities that we've done projects in the past for, and they've been happy with our product and wanted us to come back. So we're returning for additional projects. Those communities are Boone and Knoxville, and we just wrapped up a additional development down in Osceola. We've done multiple developments down there as well.
Very good.
I just have a couple additional questions for John. Thank you.
Thank you, Chase.
So regarding this resolution, just so I understand correctly, the large majority of the financial support from the city would be TIF. So if for some reason, we're talking a $28 to $30 million development, if something happens to where they develop a third of it and decide to stop there, the amount that they're going to get from us really is mostly related to TIF. So that,
Yes.
which would make the infrastructure cost that much higher for them, which would be an incentive to develop the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, they will only be reimbursed for costs that they incur for public infrastructure that will be deeded to the city.
Okay.
And that's instructive to future applicants for tax increment financing as well, right? This isn't just some gift that's being handed out. This is for real, tangible public improvements that will be deeded to the city, operated by the city, and maintained by the city. So for instance, the TIF request being $4.5 million in the alternative, right, where you talked about maybe a fair, what's our development out in
Brewer Creek Estates.
Brewer Creek Estates, thank you. Or others where the city actually pioneered that, where the citizens actually took on the debt for that. We are sort of slugging away at $1.5 to $1.2 million road improvements a year. I think maybe 2 million for Fairmeadow too. That's sort of what our capital improvement program allows right now. So we're able to work this 1.2 million into it as we would for other road projects because it's an extension of our infrastructure program. Taking out a $4.5 million bond, we would have to rearrange significant financial resources, assuming a $450,000 to $400,000 payment, avoids increasing that debt service levy or reallocating general service levy to that, and it's borne by the developer who will be reimbursed for it. I want to also go further into your concern, just based on some other comments that have been received about historical developments that have not matured in the way that the city had foreseen. I can assure you that the safeguards that you will have on the TIF agreement and our engineering and inspection services will prevent that from occurring, and I stand by that personally. And that as long as the developer continues to proceed and develop the site, we will have a fully functioning site, not something that's left in sort of limbo, so to speak, which to encourage the residents in regards to some of those other developments, we are working diligently to resolve.
I appreciate that, John, because, it is gives you that feel of like gun shyness a little bit, move forward the development after the several issues we've run into with the development over off of Edgewood. And I know there's some residents here that walked through that discussion with us years past and lived next to it. So, and I do see that there is definitely a difference in the safeguards and the process than was done then. And I also feel the players in the game are different. I feel Kading is a much more respected and I guess longevity's there for the company. It's not a bunch of investors coming and going. So I feel a lot better about that as well. But with that said, are there any other questions or comments from council or the audience?
I don't have anything else.
Good. Well, we have another fun decision to make, council. So tonight we're asking for a resolution expressing intent to provide economic development to support to the Wilson Estates LLC. Basically, in essence, that's the development agreement with Kading. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All those approve, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item C is a council memorandum and resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase an Elgin Regent X street sweeper. I think I'm saying that right. Via Sourcewell from McQueen in the amount of $413,318. Sounds like Brandon, you got some information on that?
Yeah, good evening, council. So looking to replace our current Elgin street sweeper. It is a 2011. Currently, the lifespan of a street sweeper is 10 to 12 years. That we will be going on 14 years. Like stated in the memo, we've roughly spent over $42,000 since 2020 on just maintenance and repairs on our machine. The machine was great, and in the last couple of years, it's slowly just quickly deteriorated, and it's needing to be replaced. I don't think I need to go into any detail on what the street sweeper does. It's keeping our community clean and safe, debris and all that stuff. One of the major, focal points here is how to purchase the piece of equipment. We allocated over $400,000 for the piece of equipment last year during the budget season. This was to be originally purchased with cash, but due to restraints in the road use tax fund, we had to look at different options of financing this street sweeper, and those were geo bond, leasing the piece of equipment, or a bank loan. Based off of went and talked to Doty. We've been through this process for like the last month or two, trying to figure out what's going to work best for us as well as John. And Doty recommended and John using the bond. The bank loan was our $476,000. A lease was $418,000, and the bond was $413,318. So the first payment will be $58,025, and then the remaining 9 payments. This will be a bond for 10 years. The remaining 9 payments will be $43,811. So that includes the bond fee and the interest that included in that. So definitely excited if we could get a new one coming. According to the manufacturer, they said by the end of June, we would be expected to see a new piece of equipment.
Very good. Any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Item D is a resolution authorizing the selection of utility service group for surface preparation, priming, painting, and miscellaneous welding work on the lime and soda ash silos. Nick?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we received 2 quotes, one from Utility Service Group and Peterson Construction on our bulk storage for lime and soda ash. There's some minor welding and be surface prep work, priming, painting everything over, checking the welds. Utility Service Group's price was $65,979, while Peterson Construction was $86,155. So last time we found documentation was 1994 when it was last painted. So just like anything else, you need to keep it up to date and maintain your equipment and stuff. So
Very good. Any questions? No? Then I'll call for a resolution authorizing the selection of utility service group, preparation, priming, painting, miscellaneous work, lime and soda ash silos. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very well. Item E is the resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 Chevy Silverado 1500 four-wheel drive double cab to replace the 2002 Chevy from Carl Chevrolet for the water treatment plant. Nick, this is also you?
Yep, so we're requesting the approval to replace the 2002 Chevy pickup with the new 2025 Chevy Silverado. Basically, it's just coming down to wear and tear of the equipment. It's not reliable. We call that our in-town truck now. We don't take it out of town unless we want to pretty much get it towed back in town.
I got a couple of them.
So, yeah, we'll be taking that out of the water revenue bond for 2025. So, and it was a state bid, so it's the lowest bid that we could get for that. So,
Very good. Any questions from council?
Move to approve. Second.
take it for a drive if you want.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item F is a resolution authorizing the purchase of two 1-ton 4x4 utility trucks equipped for the line department. Adam?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. So, this is kind of been a long drag out deal here with, COVID and all the stuff leading up to this, but we've had this in the budget for quite some time, for one, and now the newest one, is being this budget funds are coming out of our, CEP. We went and seek bids, state bids through Carl Chevrolet. And so we're asking for purchase of two Chevy pickups through Carl Chevrolet.
Very good. Any questions from council? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Awesome. Okay, up next is item 4, and this is actually a motion to go into closed session. And this is where we meet in closed session to discuss strategy with counsel on matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the government body bank in that litigation and provide by chapter 21.5C of the Code of Iowa. We have a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
All right, we're in closed session. We'll take a couple minute recess, but thank you, everybody.